Hello, welcome to the Metapod, a Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta. And let me tell you, we had some evolving over the weekend. Darkness Ablaze released. Everybody's playing it on PTCG. After everything started working again on PTCGO, I should say, everybody started playing Darkness Ablaze. So we got a lot to talk about. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm good. I am recovering from a bit of a butt whooping on Sunday at the Sunday Open. I didn't do too hot. I'm just gonna chalk it up to PTCGO though. It's not me. It's the client. The client's trash.
Not the deck. Not the fact that I played Charizard VMAX.
Yeah, exactly.
It's PTCGO.
I mean, I only played one game with it, but still, I'm just gonna blame Direwolf Digital, the developer, and just move on from there.
Wow. Okay. Shots fired. You know what?
Drop this little bag of poop on their doorstep. Thank you very much.
You know, here's what I was gonna make a joke to. So like, did you see that Pokemon company released a Play Pokemon podcast?
I did.
Did you listen to it?
I did. I listened to it at normal speed, but I skipped the Pokken and VGC section.
So I listened to the whole thing, the whole 9 yards, because that's just me. But I was thinking,
a Pokemon fanboy.
I really am. Like, I just love all things Pokemon, and TCG is just one of them. But like, TCG is kind of almost the main thing now. I don't know. I really like the video games. I'm not a huge like competitive battler in the video games, but I really like the video games. But the TCG is getting up there. But like, my point was, like, I was going to make a joke this week of how, like, you know, maybe they could bring the Metapod on the podcast. But then I was like, you know what? I've bagged on Pokemon a lot of times. They probably don't want me, so Sean might make it. But that right there, you shitting on Direwolf? Nuh-uh. We're out. Metapod will never make it. Metapod will never be on it. It's only until like September 9th. They're only doing like 5 episodes, but still, like,
they say it's till September 9th, but we'll see.
It's a corporate podcast. Those never last. Anyway, we got a lot to talk about today. Again, Darkness Ablaze coming in full force. We did have a couple events this past weekend that featured the Ultra Prism 2 Darkness Ablaze format, the same format that the Atlas POG championships are going to be. So a lot of, like, in my opinion, surprises, but also like not surprises, if that makes any sense.
Like, especially there was a few things that I'm gonna hold off for getting on my high horse here, but yeah, definitely a few surprises. Now. Not high horse. I can't think of the right word for it, but
do you have a Mudsdale on your high horse, or do you like?
I made a correct prediction. So we will get to that in a bit.
Okay, so Sean, which one do you want to talk about? Neopie Open or the PokéX Season 2 Tag Bolt event?
Let's talk about the Tag Bolt. Let's go in the order that they were done, because I do think the order that they were done had an impact, maybe.
I think so too. I think that's valid. So the top 16 of the PokéX Tag Bolt, I believe this was Tag Bolt number 6 in the second season. There was a good chunk of both new stuff and then also old stuff within this format. You had Vikavolt representing in there. You had Centiskorch. You had some Decidueye in there. You also had ADP, Control. Woo! Yeah, represent. Mew 3 slid in there. But the winner that also had a couple other spots within the top 16, Baby Blacephalon, the wonderful guest that we had on our podcast a couple weeks ago, took the whole thing, 7-0, didn't lose a single game with Baby Blacephalon. How do you feel about this?
Do we have the matchups that he had?
It doesn't have the matchup. Oh no, we do. He tweeted it.
I mean, congrats to him for going 7-0, but I gotta say, he had the luckiest run of anyone that I have seen in a tournament that has this many rounds. That's not to say Li Bui is not really good. That's not saying that at all. I'm not taking it away. But this tournament had 12 Vikavolts in it. And I can tell you right now, Baby Blounds versus Vikavolt is not going to look good. Not having items, not being able to use fire crystals or flints or ordinary rods or quick balls or any of that, that's doom for a Baby Blounds.
Especially because there's 2 variants of Vikavolt. There's really like 3, right? There's like a regular kind of thing. There's like a turbo list, and then there's the sleepy Vikavolt.
But like,
is there a turbo in regular one, or am I just crazy? I could be crazy.
I mean, there were like really 2 lists for me, and it just depends on whether or not you want turbo patch. But
yeah, okay, turbo. That's why it's called turbo. Oh my god.
But I'll say, like, whatever list version you want to play, item locking Baby Blacephalon is horrible. But somehow Libui did not face 1 Vikavolt in all 7 matches and it was the most played deck in the tournament with 12. So he somehow dodged every single Vikavolt, basically, that he could have faced.
If you're curious about what the actual round matchups were throughout the 7, round 1, Baby Blounds, W. Round 2, Luke Metal Zacian, W. 3 through 5, all 3 of those rounds, Centiskorch VMAX, W's. Round 6 and 7, ADPZ, W.
Yeah. So
pretty wild.
6 of those 7 are matchups where Baby Blounds is like, please feed me. You know, like Centiskorch, like you got to stretch a little bit higher to hit Centiskorch, but like, you know, it's
still
doable.
Freaking possible, especially because Centiskorch plays like Giant Hearts.
Yeah.
You know, different things to help you.
Exactly.
You know, because Baby Blounds doesn't play. I mean, Lee did play 1 Giant Hearth. I think the most interesting thing about Lee winning with Baby Blacephalon is there was not a single Darkness Ablaze card in this was literally an Ultra Prism to Rebel Clash deck list. He doesn't own any Darkness Ablaze. So like he was like, I'm just gonna go in with this.
I mean, I don't think Darkness Ablaze gave it anything to begin with. So it's like, yep, fair enough. You don't need any.
Crobat? You don't think Crobat would be good in this list? Crobat has 20 more HP than Dedenne.
I don't think you need it. Dedenne is better because you could put fires in the discard with Dedenne. Crobat, that's true. Crobat, you might have things in your hand that you might want to keep a little bit, but you have 4 of so many different things. I think Dedenne is better. And then on top of that, like, okay, you want more draw, or Choreo is better than Crobat because you might get 2 turns of draw, which is more than what a Crobat would give you, basically.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's my 2 cents on that. I mean, so I'll say, like, that was a big surprise, is Blacephalon winning it all, because yes, Blacephalon can have some good matchups in the meta, but Vikavolt is a horrible matchup. So like, if you see this and you're like, yo, Baby Blounds is like up there, I'm like, no, it is not. If you can dodge every Vikavolt that's going to be played, then yeah, you might have a good day, but you will not do that. Like that was extraordinarily lucky to dodge all 12 of those Vikavolts through 7 rounds.
So what would you say to then Grand W, who got 13th with Baby Blacephalon? I mean, like, because there are Baby Blacephalon lists that did like pretty well. You know, there's only 4 players too that made top 16.
I mean, look, I think Baby Blounds.
Vikavolt?
Look, I think there's another one that got 10th at Baby Blounds, right? So like,
yeah, there's 3 of the 4. Like that proves my point even more.
I am not saying that it's a bad deck. I'm just saying that going 7-0. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's you can't bank on just dodging everything.
And the thing is, all you need to do is hit 1 Vikavolt in the top cut, and you're done. So like, yeah, you could maybe like do well against the field, and if you want to just make day 2, maybe Baby Blounds is a good deck to play. If you're like, okay, I'm gonna high roll a little, dodge enough Vikavolts to make day 2 of POG, and then fine. Yeah, that's not a terrible strategy. Because you do have a good matchup spread outside of that. But
yeah, I think like outside of Vikavolt, I mean, Vikavolt or Control, like, yeah, those are like what, your 2 losses pretty much?
Yeah, I mean, look, you could put Victini Prism Star in, and that would help you against Control.
Yeah, like that's boom, easy tech. But like looking at the other lists that were in here, you know, Centiskorch did place 4th, did place 6th, placed 9th, placed 14th. Like people were playing some fun stuff. And then Vikavolt, as we mentioned, there was 1, 2, 3 Vikavolts within the top 16. Decidueye and Rowlegs. I love that. I need Rowlet to be good. I need a Rowlet to be good.
I'm sorry, it's not good. Somebody got 15th with it, but I can tell you right now, man, Decidui, I played it on ladder with, I was playing Eternatus, and I was able to beat it because you gave me 3 prizes, basically. And then all I have to do is figure out how to knock out 3 Decidueyes, which, let's be frank, is not that hard if you have any Pokemon that can do it.
It's one of those decks that's like anything with Decidueye as like the attackers. Like if you can just catch someone off guard and they don't know how to fight it, it's like boom, you win, right?
Yeah, or if you happen to play against a deck that doesn't have an answer to it, or they prize the answer or whatever.
Man, I love Rowlet, man. But anyways, another one of the very well, first of all, we got to give a shout out to Cashman, one of our favorite peeps, doing a lot of the stats stuff and collecting deck lists, doing stats that we frequently use here on the Metapod. Came second, Arceus Dialga Palkia, Zacian V. Very, very cool list, in my personal opinion, with the Duraludon. Decided not to go with the Mawile or anything of the sort. Very, very cool. But also Mewtwo and Mew Malamar Toolbox. Did you see this list from Kyle Vincent Imperial? This is running a 3/3 Malamar. It is a Mewtwo box. Got 2 Mewtwo's in it. That's kind of sometimes your main attacker. But with things still like Dragapult, Mad Party even, being psychic with those Poltegeist attackers. You have a lot of different other options like Gengar Mimikyu, the Trevenant Dusknoir, Solgaleo Lunala. You also have the Jirachi to help with that weakness, Jirachi GX. And then also cute little Rhyperior V in there to slam down any Eternatus or Vikavolt.
Yeah, I like the Rhyperior in here.
I think this is pretty close to the usual, the original like Mewtwo Malamars that we used to see before like the pandemic, kind of that sort, just with a little bit more, with the Crobat, the Rhyperior.
I'm trying to think of how this, I guess the Giratina is what you have to beat Decidueye.
Yes.
Okay.
It's just relatively like a pretty decent like one prize attacker, I feel like.
Yeah. I think the only thing that
if you attach a big charm on it, because there is a big charm in this list, like Decidueye has to hit you. I mean, Decidueye has to hit you twice anyways, because it only hits for 90. But like big charm, you can put damage on yourself.
Yeah.
Which is very nice. You don't have to put it on like a Dedenne or another bench Pokemon that Decidueye may snipe.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at this now and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to think of how its matchup spread works. And I guess ADPZ, you just Horror House before they have a chance to.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you blow the ADP up before they can GX. So that's how you get that one. The Jirachi GX is interesting because I almost think you could maybe even take that out. Like if you don't think people are going to play Dragapult, you know what I mean? Like you could just be like, nah, I don't need Jirachi GX anymore.
Star Search is really good though.
Star Search can be okay, but if you're using Star Search for turn,
if you got a dead hand and you got nothing going for you, Star Search is not a bad play.
I guess it's not awful.
And plus, like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely like a last case scenario type deal. But like, I will say that Star Search, I did play that deck today on stream. For those of you who don't know, I stream at twitch.tv/atrocious gameplay. Blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I did play that deck, and I did end up using Star Search in one of my games, and it allowed me to get that comeback. So like that was super nice.
Okay.
Because like especially if you can't set up a Mally, but.
So I think that that deck for me it's pretty good. I think Baby Blounds blows it up, but
yeah.
And maybe I'm trying to think of like maybe Eternatus.
That's also what the Tina is for.
Eternatus might run away with it as well. Maybe. It
depends how early you can like knock out because you just go ahead then and attack with the Mewtwo's.
It depends. But like I think that one is a bit touch and go, but luckily there were no Eternatuses played at all in the first event.
And wait a minute. Yeah, there is. Expensive. Yeah, there was. There were 6 of them.
Oh, I guess there's 6, but none of them made the top 16.
It's in the very bottom. But yes, none in the top 16. That is good to know. None in the top 16. But there was actually no, there was not Eternatus in the Neopie Open top 16. It was in like the top 32 or whatever, but not the top 16.
Do we want to move on to the Neopie Open right now?
I think we should. I think that was my perfect segue that you soiled.
So
kidding.
no, it's not it's a good segue. So the reason I wanted to do that, because I have two things, and maybe one of them will not stay true for long, but I have two things that I want to just call out, and I'm going to try to find the footage, the audio from last week. But the first one is, I said last week that Eternatus was overrated, and what happened weekend one?
Okay. Hey, wait. Let's pump the brakes here, Chief. Let's pump the brakes. You're speeding a little bit, all right? I'm about to pull you over. Okay. Let's talk about this first, and I will talk about why we don't have to worry about how Eternatus did not do well week one. Deal?
Okay, do it. Go for it.
Because I have the solution. Okay, so going into this top 16, ADP basically like ruled the show, took the 3 of the top 4 spots. Pikarom ended up winning it though. Yusuke Saki.
It might be Yusuke.
I'm sure. Yusuke?
Yeah.
Yusuke?
Because there's a character in an anime that I really like called Yusuke Urameshi.
Okay,
So,
was it the same spelling as that?
yes, Yusuke.
Okay, cool. Anyways,
Might be Yusuke, but I don't know. Close enough.
won the Neil Pie Open regardless with Pikarom. Another deck that is pretty much the same, except a couple changes. You know, Lee didn't have any Darkness Ablaze, but the Pikarom deck had Vikavolt V, just one of them, and then
Pikavolt.
also a Bird Keeper as well. Did I say something?
No, I'm calling it's called Pikavolt. That's the name of the deck.
Oh, there's only one there's only one Vikavolt though.
Yeah, but it's
How could
a
you
clutch
call it
Pikavolt.
If it's only one, then you got to call it Pikavolchu Boltengoss.
Cool.
Because those
Pikavoltu
all are one.
Boltengoss. We called it
The
now.
new deck coined. Put a stamp on that. Anyways, pretty decent deck. Tag Call Pika. Once again, I will still reign high on my horse when I said before Limitless Qualifier 3 that Tag Call Pika was good. Still going to ride that train. Because
Hey,
looky here. Tag Call Pika.
I have to insert this now. I also said last week, I bet you Pikachu and Zekrom will do well at the Sunday Open. Insert audio clip now. I have a sneaking suspicion that Pikarom does well at the Sunday Open.
I will give you that, though. I will give you that. I will give you that. Lucario Melmetal also placing in there. The two different Vikavolt archetypes, you know, Table Mom, Pablo Mesa, he placed 5th with Vikavolt V. Went 3-1. He just kind of bubbled out just due to percentages and whatnot. And then 2 Sleepy Mareeps as well. There was a couple Luke Metal Zacians within, you know, the top 16. 3 of them, I think, to be exact. There was 2 Blacephalons as well that made it within the top 10. But Arceus Dialga, man, ADPZ not slowing down anytime soon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that like 5, I think.
You remember when ADPZ kind of like took a step back a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and was like not on everybody? There was Combo Zacian, and there was Dragapult, and there was Baby Blounds, and
so basically when Rebel Clash released.
Yeah. And then it's all coming back around now, and ADPZ is like, no, I'm back, and I'm better than ever with Turbo Patch and Crobat.
Yeah, I think Turbo Patch makes that deck pretty doggone good, but it's very, very. There was also an Obstaguy. Wow. Okay, I just made a new archetype. Yes, Decidueye Obstagoon. Very, very cool. Obstagoon, I believe, is the main attacker. Well, it's really like almost a split. It's a 3-1-3 Obstagoon, a 2-1-2 Decidueye.
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting deck. I had some people mentioning it to me like on Discord a few days ago. Be like, yo, Decidueye Obstagoon. I'm like, that's cool if it can pull it off, man. 2 stage 2s sounds complicated.
Well, it's not necessarily like a deck where, you know, you bring both of them out, right?
Yeah,
it's not like
I think you're absolutely right. That's the goal, is you have to know when to use one versus another in a matchup. And that is,
yeah, it's like as soon as they flip over their starter, you got to know, like, especially if you're going first, like what you're going for to start, right?
Yeah.
Because if you spend time setting, because if you spend time setting up, you know, maybe they lead off with, God, I don't know, Zacian. And so you're like, oh, this is ADP Zacian or combo Zacian. And so your first turn, you're going
Decidueye.
pulling up all these Rowlets, and you're trying to get out of Decidueye, but all of a sudden they throw down a fire energy, and you're like, ah, shit, it's Baby Blacephalon. You gotta know right away, which is a huge point of like the open list meta right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you like instantly know before the people even challenge you to a game, like what strategy you're going to be doing, right?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think the fact that it's open deck list definitely makes playing this type of deck a lot easier, because you can immediately go like, I'll look at the deck list. Do they have a Duraludon and ADPZ? If yes, select Obstagoon. If no, select Decidueye, right?
Yeah, it's pretty insane to me, in my opinion. Because this list is really, really cool. I think this is kind of the better, like Decidueye list that we've seen, in my opinion. This is one of the better ones that we've seen, especially because we've seen Obstagoon excel, with the Rosa engine, with the counter gains and stuff like that.
Now,
this makes me really excited.
I will say one thing that's important to note that I'm just now realizing a bit is these top 16 standings. I don't know if Brandon, who played Decidueye Obstagoon, played that deck at all in the first half of the Sunday Open. Because in that one,
that is also true.
So he went 1-3 with this deck in the top 16, which if those are the only 4 games he played with it, it did not do well, right? Mm-hmm. I think that it still has potential regardless, but I do think that like any stage 2 deck in a field full of ADPZ, if you whiff, you're not going to have a good day.
Well, I mean, that's still like kind of where we are in the meta.
Yeah.
Though, like, there's no like slow start is almost an auto loss.
Yeah, that's
like we got better because of decks kind of slowing down. Like Vikavolt, I think Centiskorch also kind of slows down a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The meta.
That was 2 of my losses actually. I got slow starts, and then I was like, well, GG's.
Well, you played Charizard VMAX, so
it was so bad. It was so bad. I played my Turbo Bolton too, and you know how many energy I got on board turn 1?
0?
1.
And
I was halfway through my deck.
Just get good, scrub. Anyways, but no, these top 16s were really, really cool. There was a lot of great stuff to look at it. A lot of good lists as well. Especially before the POG championships, there's a lot of people, including myself, that are not necessarily like good deck builders. I'm not comfortable enough like building my own archetype yet and excelling in that. I've been trying to do that with Stonejourner VMAX, and let me tell you how that's going. It's not going great. Probably won't play it at POG. But being able to see these lists and seeing like different matchups as well in this format has been huge in helping me learn, because I didn't actually start getting to actually play myself in this format until today. Today was the first day. Well, this is Monday of the recording, so this is the first day that I got to play. Aside from that, I've just been watching and trying to like delve in as much as I can,
Yeah, I mean, I will say the good news is that we did have 2 tournaments, so people can start to see what decks might be doing well, at least very early. That could change, and then, for someone like you, like if you're like, okay, I haven't committed 100 packs or whatever yet to Eternatus or whatever, maybe I don't want to now. And so now you can like be a little bit more selective of like, okay, this is the deck I want to build based on these results. And I think that's good at like helping certain players to like, better manage what they want to spend their resources on.
I literally can't afford on PTCGO Eternatus. I can't. I just can't.
I pulled 4 Crobats, 1 Eternatus, and an Eternatus VMAX out of packs, right?
What? How many?
80 some odd packs.
80? I did like 100 today.
90 packs. And that's why I got crazy pulls. I put a video up on my channel the other day with it. Crazy pulls.
I mean, I got some good pulls too, but I just didn't get 4 Crobats. I only got 1.
But like, so I was able to pull a bunch, but do you know how many packs it took for me to finish the Eternatus deck? I needed 3 more Eternatus and only 2 Eternatus VMAX. I'm only running 3 VMAXs in that deck.
I don't think that's like a bad idea.
What, only running a 3-4 line or a 4-3?
Yeah, I don't think that's like horrible.
Yeah, it's not horrible, right? Like I don't ever need probably more than 3 in a game, so it felt fine. But it was 90 more packs in trading to get 3 Eternatus and 2 VMAXs, and I'm like, that's insane.
I'm just waiting to get
dumb.
Eternatus until the box comes out that we talked about a couple weeks ago, and then I'm just gonna watch the price like tank.
Oh yeah,
so Reshazard had that same effect.
You could just buy the codes for the boxes.
Yeah, I could just
$7
do
or $8.
I probably not. I probably wouldn't want to buy a code though just for the promos. That's a little bit too much. I need a little bit more value out of $7 or $8 per code. But anyways, now that we've talked about kind of what's happened in the meta, the different things that are going on, how the different decks showed up. Wait, is this where we go to the predictions?
Yeah. I think we can go to the predictions now. I think we can.
I had this transition and then I lost it.
No. I think what we can do now is we're going to transition to, instead of talking about what did happen, we're going to spend some time talking about what we think is going to be the POG format.
I remembered that I haven't told you yet why you don't need to worry about Eternatus.
Oh, yes, please tell me. I mean, this can be the start of the predictions. So what is your prediction for Eternatus then that is different than whiffing top 16 in 2 different events?
Okay, so this is kind of the thing that I've seen a lot in a lot of formats, you know, like decks don't really appear until like the second half of the season. When a set comes out, we build these lists and we build these archetypes. We don't know the ideal archetype yet. All right. And we didn't even like know the meta going into it. All right. So now that we have a better idea of what the meta is, because we have these 2 tournaments that kind of show us like what did really well, what the majority was. I don't think we have specific numbers for NeilPie about like who played what deck, because it only really matters in phase 2 about who played what deck.
Yeah, they don't have numbers for the first half.
Yeah. So like, but still, like we have 2 different ways to distinguish what the meta is, you know, make different techs, make different changes to the list, make lists way more ideal. All right. Just because Eternatus didn't do well now. All right. We're going to perfect it. We're going to try to make it as best as possible. I don't think you need to worry about it. I don't think it's going to be like, I still think Eternatus is a tier 1 deck personally. I just don't think that, you know, the way that it all played out, I don't know if people found the right way to play it. Now, do I know the right way to play it? Probably not. But you know what? That deck is really strong. It does what it needs to do really, really well. And you know what? I don't know if it would happen during POG just because like this window of season is so short, right? Like it's literally, we have like 1 more week. It's like next week it rotates. Next week rotation happens. Yeah.
This is the last weekend, like full weekend, where we're going to have this set legal. It'll still be legal, I think, for a few days after the tournament, but yeah. Yeah,
it'll be legal from like Monday to Thursday, you know?
Yeah. Here's my thought. So I understand that completely. And like, I know we're saying like, you know, we don't necessarily know the right way to build a deck yet. All that said, this deck existed in Japan for several months, right? In the exact same format, basically, that we have now. And Eternatus was not taking the field by storm in Japan. You know what decks were? The same decks that are doing well right now, which is Vikavolt and Centiskorch.
Control, baby.
Yeah, and Control. But Centiskorch
Love me some Control.
So for me, like, I think what's playing out here is the same thing that played out in Japan. Now, will Centiskorch get better because other decks get worse after rotation? Very likely. I ain't
talking about rotation, though.
I know we're not talking about it, but I'm saying I think long term, maybe, you know, Eternatus gets better relative to everything else. But I think for POG, it is not a tier 1 deck. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion.
I would
but
vastly disagree with you.
Okay. I mean, look, everybody's going to come at me, but I'm like, Centiskorch is the VMAX for this set. That's good for POG, at least.
Centiskorch is pretty good. I mean, really, a lot of things that play Welder are just like good.
Yeah.
And plus now we have a special fire energy that gives you 20 extra health.
Yeah,
right?
that's pretty.
So it's a for sure 2-shot. Unless you're a deck that somehow like the Mewtwo Mally, right? Like that deck plays the
Ultra Necrozma, yeah.
well, I mean, not only like in an infinite cap of damage, but like it also has like other instant KO moves. So like Blacephalon, it's a really strong deck. It just blows things up, all right? It gets 500 energies in its hand, blows you up. Doesn't matter what your HP is. Mewtwo Mally, they not only have the Ultra Necrozma, but they also have the Trevnor GX, right? Trevnor GX Plus. I forget the name of it right now, where discards all of your energies, and then if you don't move, you're knocked out.
Yeah, that's very sneaky on a Centiskorch.
Yeah, I mean, just decks that have like those. A 2-shot meta is huge for a deck like Centiskorch, and that's what it really, really needs. So I do agree that Centiskorch is probably a better, as of right now, like a better. I mean, obviously we have stats and stuff all for it. It's a better right now VMAX deck. But for POG, I would say that it gets closer to a 50-50. And like, which is the better VMAX?
I will concede that there are certain combos that Eternatus can take advantage of that maybe haven't been exploited yet. Whether that is Yveltal, Darkrai Prism Star with energy switches. You know, people haven't really thought too much about that. You know, I think there's a few things that you could do with it. You know what I think about all this. So, but so
that's, I know that you think Eternatus is trash and your opinion is just wrong.
So I think the first thing we'll do then, let's say Eternatus right now. There's a great tier list, by the way, that Celios did. So I think that's a good place for us to like, you know, use as a reference point for the rest of this episode. What do you think, Jake?
I think that's fine. Shout out to Luke. Did it on I was watching his stream last night when he did this. It was more like a community tier list. You know, he only provided his opinion if the community was split like 50-50 on a tier. He would then make like the executive decision. But overall, this is what his community, you know, 60, 70 people that were chilling out in the stream decided on the tier list. And I think it's a pretty decent tier list. I'm sure he'll be putting it up on YouTube later this week or Patreon. Go support his Patreon. So a couple other decks that I want to talk about. I think we've already talked about Vikavolt. I think we've already talked about how Vikavolt is super strong, pretty doggone good, right?
Yep. And I would say personally, if you're going to go in there into POG, Sleepy Vika is probably the way to go. So with Mareep, especially, like, I don't know if Amoonguss is too complicated and you don't need it because you have.
No, yeah, don't go Amoonguss. Don't go Amoonguss.
But like, you know, Sleepy Vika with Mareep and maybe like Slumbering Forests and even maybe Crushing Hammers, all of that in combination, I think makes Sleepy Vika a little bit better than just regular Vikavolt, in my opinion. Just because, you know, you add in a status condition like that and either your opponent has to tech for it or they just don't attack you back, which is great.
I think that the regular Vika, though, is pretty good for those of you that maybe like me, maybe you can't get the cards for everything. Because I got lucky in my 100 packs, I pulled 5 Vikavolts. Like I got straight up lucky in that sense. I didn't have to trade for any of them, so I got to play a lot of Vikavolt today. Especially because I had transferred a majority of my playing in the last like month and a half from stream to YouTube and like keep it condensed to YouTube. Still like playing every day, but definitely not for like 5 hours at a time. I'm a little bit rusty. The Vikavolt deck was very like the regular Vikavolt was much linear. So I think like if you're a player like a Danny Altavilla or what, I'm sure he doesn't want advice from me on like what deck to play. But he's probably way better off with the Sleepy Vika because that, in my opinion, takes way more comboing, that takes way more sequencing, that takes way more strategy because you've got like kind of 2 things that you need to worry about, where instead with Vikavolt, like you just have one guy that you're working with instead of like a switch, a revolving door of Pokemon, you know?
Yeah.
Pokemon Stadium reference right there. Anybody get that? um, so I think that they're both really good. I think that Sleepy Pika is better, but like if you're deciding like the day before, you're like, oh God, I don't know what to play, and you've just been bouncing around all the time, like play regular Vika. I think you just be better in that.
Yeah, it's less complicated. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. It just seems way more linear in my opinion from the one day that I got to play it.
So I think in terms of the decks that we've talked about now, we have Centiskorch. I'm just trying to like organize our thoughts right now. So we have Centiskorch that we agree is very good. We have Vikavolt, which we think is also very good with a slight preference to Sleepy. And you've heard our thoughts on Eternatus. That whether or not you think it's tier 1, we're not doing a tier list, but clearly it should be a very good deck if you can afford to build it, right?
Yeah, if you can, which I don't think a lot of people can do right now.
No, I think you're right.
A lot of people can afford it.
Maybe give it that extra week and more. It will see more play just because.
For sure.
But like, you're absolutely right. Eternatus rocking up with Eternatus to Pog is basically a flex at this point.
Yes.
So
especially when you got the rainbows in there or the full art Crobats.
So
I'm looking at you, person I face on the ladder.
Did they have more than one full art Crobat?
Yes.
Oh my.
It was crazy.
So outside of that though, what else would you put on the top of that like pyramid, if you will?
I would put Control.
Okay, so
I would put Control up there. As always, I'm a huge Control guy. I like it. I like playing for my opponent. I like having twice the difficulty.
Yep.
In playing the game, not necessarily mill. You know, I'm not talking about mill. I'm talking about Control. Now, mill is like the list that I've been playing lately have been like the hybrid of like half Control, half mill. But I feel like with the Control list that I've been seeing a lot of times, let me actually try to. Well, somebody did it. Somebody did really well with it the other day. Where was it? It was Patrick Feeney. Hopefully, I don't know if I said your name right. That played Cincino Control. Had different things like Lucamine, Crushing Hammer. Had a Faba in there. Team Yell Grunt, very heavy on that. I played that list in the off time because that actually doesn't take any Darkness Ablaze. So I went ahead and played it on like Sunday night. I just picked it up and I went like 6 games straight. Now, I haven't done any of the like matchups. Like I haven't taken the time to like play 10 games against Eternatus, play 10 games against Centiskorch, play 10 games against this, that, and the other. But I feel like this is pretty good because like this, like Cincino Control also relies a bit on supporters.
I will say this. I'm looking at the deck list right now. If there was a few things I would change to it, I think, look, the base of any Control deck is going to be very similar in some ways.
Yes.
I personally, though, I like the Delcatty route because Delcatty gets you your supporters back from the discard without having to use a supporter to do it.
Yeah, like you don't have to pal pad it and then try to draw it or
exactly
any of that stuff.
And the other thing, the reason that's important is because of Vikavolt. Vikavolt stops you using your pal pad, stops you using everything. So you need Channeler, which means that if you want to do another supporter in a turn other than Channeler, you have to be able to find Surge on top of it every turn, which means you need the Delcatty. So you're basically every turn you're going, evolve Delcatty, grab Surge, grab Channeler, Surge, Channeler, probably then using your pal pad, putting it supporters back in, and then finding whatever other supporter you want to use for the turn. Scoop up net your Delcatty line, put down the Skitty. Like that, having played against actually a decent amount of that Control, that is the only combo that you can bring that can beat Vikavolt. If you don't play that, you will lose 100%.
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure if I totally agree. I mean, if you just get set up, you do run things like Team Yell Grunt. You do. I know then there's things like Coco Prism and things like that. They just discard the energies. They just accelerate it. Yeah, I know. But that's like providing one less attachment. You look at like ADP, for example.
I'm talking about Vikavolt though.
No, I mean, but it's the same. It's almost like the same concept.
I mean, the Vikavolt, because it item locks you, you can't play Crushing Hammer. So like the most that you can do is, Lieutenant Surge to Team Yell Grunt, right?
Faba.
What would you?
They play speed energies.
Sure. I mean, but then they just decide not to put any more speed energies on their active, and then they're fine. Because it only takes 2 energy. I'm like, I think it's.
But then you also look at, maybe you just don't let Vikavolt stay in the active. Maybe you gust something else up. They're probably going to put something else down. This actually list doesn't play a stamp. That's interesting. But anyways, you get to, they do have the Make 'em Pay Persian and a Meowth in there. So I think they commit heavily to the Make 'em Pay. Like, just because Vikavolt does some item locks, you don't have to 100% commit to getting rid of the energies. I mean, definitely you do, because that makes it way easier if you hit heads on Crushing Hammers. But there are other routes in Control to be able to stop the item lock from happening.
This is where I think I just got to disagree with that, because I'm like, look, Vikavolt, you only need 2 energy, right? And you have a bunch of outs between Turbo Patches and Cocoa Prism and Thunder Mountain. Getting them to 0 energy after they have at least 2 attached every single turn is huge from a commitment perspective. And I just think that, if you don't play Channeler, you're basically asking to have a hand at one point in the game that has a bunch of item cards that you can do nothing with. And then if you have to start discarding all of your items just to get through your deck, and then you don't have Pal Pads or Ordinary Rods, and then you can't even play Pokedolls. Pokedol is an item, right? So I think that for me, the list doesn't have to be that different, but I do think a Channeler and a way to get the Channeler back is almost necessary if you think Vikavolt is going to be popular. That's just me, though.
I would be curious to know, because Channeler is slow, right? Channeler is arguably just slow.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're playing a control deck, you can play slow, right? You just need to be able to use your items like Crushing Hammers. I
would love to have a conversation, because I don't want to delve on this forever, obviously, because there are way other decks. We could spin in circles all day. I would love to have a conversation with Patrick over here. If you want to hit me up, Atrocious Jake on Twitter, I would love to have a conversation with you, because this is probably, Control is basically my comfort pick. I'm probably going to play this for POG. I'll just be straight up.
Yeah. Yeah, what I would say to you then, Jake, test it against Vikavolt. Look, if you don't need it, you don't need it. That's fair. I would test it and just see how it feels. But you can certainly ask him why, he didn't run Channeler or anything like that in his deck. And it may have simply been that this was his comfort pick as well, and it was the first day after the set was legal.
Yeah, it's like when I messaged, I slid in Stefan Eriksson's. I don't know how to say his first name. I know how to spell it, and I watch his YouTube videos. But he does a lot of Control stuff, and he was big Cosmic Eclipse, Pidgeotto Control, and that was the best ever event. I'd send him a DM, and I was like, dude, how do you play this deck? I want to play it. And he told me all these things, and then I had in a crazy finish. I think we talked about that last week in the Q&A.
Yeah.
But I need to do that with Patrick. I just need to find him. I need to send him a DM, be like, yo, how you beat Vikavolt?
Yo, and if you're a serious Control player out there, just let us know. Add us on Twitter at MetapodTCG. Send us a note and let us know what we're getting right and wrong about Control, because please educate us.
Yo, boy wants to make day 2. I don't need to win. I just want to make day 2. That's it.
All right. Let's move on from Control, if you don't mind. The last deck that I'm going to put on the top of that pyramid is ADPZ. The fact that we overlooked it this far in this ranking.
I think we overlooked it. We talked about it a lot in the Neil Pie.
Oh yeah. So let's just reconfirm. ADPZ clearly at the top of the pyramid as well. So
yes.
So rather than talking about all of there's so many decks, right?
There's a lot of great decks. I like this format a lot better.
What are 3 underrated decks that you think they don't have to be a ton of the field, but 3 underrated decks that you think of that will do okay at POG or make a deep run?
I'm gonna say Dragapult is one of them.
Ooh,
I'm gonna say Dragapult is one of them. Because like here's the mentality that I've seen a lot of people, and I've joked around about this. I've said as a joke in like other people's stream stuff, Dragapult is just bad, right? Because you just lose to Eternatus. When you're thinking about like what you're gonna play and you think about deck building and stuff, you can't be afraid of like one single auto loss. You know, you can't be afraid of just taking like one L to a certain deck, because like as you can see in this past week, like Dragapult didn't do so hot. Or I'm sorry, not Dragapult. Eternatus didn't do so hot. Eternatus was not like super there, and it was played. You look at the Tag Bolt event. Look at how many people played Dragapult. Sean, I want you to look at the chart. Do you still have it pulled up?
Yes, I do.
I want you to tell me how many people played Dragapult in that.
Let's see here. Dragapult. It had a big whopping 0.
Dun. Exactly. So like nobody even tried Dragapult, right? And so like you see that it didn't do so hot here. You see that, you know, we don't exactly know with the NeoPi Open. We don't know if people were like playing it during it and just like decide to switch decks or whatever. You go from a deck that is pretty like considered one of the BDIFs of the Rebel Clash format, correct?
Yeah, to being absolutely ignored.
Yeah, absolutely ignored, because people are so afraid of Eternatus. And I mean, you kind of, do you still have, what do you think the matchup is against Baby Lucephalon?
Oh, I would say depending on the version, right? There was a version that ran Stamp and Plant. And so if you're worried about Baby Lucephalon, Plant Stamp, that's all you need, right? Because like once you can take out the one that has energy on it, and if you can set up extra knockouts like on their Jirachis so that they can't use Jirachi, and then you set up, you know, triple prize knockouts between Dedenne and something else on their bench, like that's how Dragapult beats Baby Blacephalon, is saying, you can try to blow me up once, but can you blow me up twice, right? And it's actually very hard for Baby Blacephalon to blow it up twice if you're playing Plant and or Stamp. I think that, or a lot of Marnies, right? If you're playing like 4 Marnies in the deck, I think either one of those can have a favorable matchup against Baby Blounds. But again, look, if you have a bad game, Baby Blounds just going to wreck you.
And I mean, again, I said this earlier, like if you just have a slow start, like I mean, this format is still like too fast. This format is still too fast to not have some sort of apologies for slow starts. That's not the right word, but I think people know what. So like if you look at Dragapult, it pretty much auto loses to Eternatus, I would say. Pretty much auto loses against maybe like Luke Metal as well, right? Because they full Metal Wall GX and you're doing a whopping like 30 damage per turn. And
then like, look, Luke Metal might even play a Zamazenta in it. And at that point, you're just like, why?
You're just like, oh God. Yeah. I mean, there was a, I think it was NeoPi. It's like a Luke Metal list that played 3 Zamazentas.
Oh my gosh. Aggressive.
Which I think is way too much. I don't think Zamazenta is that good.
I think 2, if you want to go heavy Zamazenta, 2 is all you need.
Yeah, I think.
The thing is 3, you're implying that they somehow are getting through your Zamazentas. And I'm like, well, if they're getting through them, you're not going to have a good day.
Yeah, I would at that point just try to use a heavy hitter like Zacian.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's just my personal opinion. So those are like your 2 auto losses. And like you think about the different things that Dragapult could play. Dragapult plays the Giratina from Unified Minds. Now is like one of the best times for that, because now not only do you have the speed energy, right, that you're just bouncing off, and like other things from like Mewtwo, which you may or may not see, right? Because Mewtwo wasn't like Mewtwo wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't a tier 1 deck.
Yeah.
Now you've got the hide energy. Capture energy is a resurgence. Everybody's playing capture energy now.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
Heat fire.
The fire energy, whatever that is called, you have, well, I don't think we should really consider powerful energy yet.
But I get your point. Like there's so much good special energy now that like that Giratina all of a sudden is super, powerful.
Yeah, I mean the Giratina is valuable, but also like I still think that even with those two like losses, like you look at the rest of the meta right now, and it could do like really well. Does it like get straight up defeated by item lock?
No, I don't think it does, because once you get it set up right, if they want to keep item locking, that means you're only doing 50 a turn, maybe a little bit more with e-power, but not that much.
And plus, like we saw a point where Dragapult was playing Mallow and Lana for like the mirror.
Yeah, exactly.
Like maybe Mallow and Lana comes back because of item lock. They're just whacking you for the item lock, and you're like, okay, you're just gonna hit me for some 50s. I'll just heal that off. So then you can't hit that 190. And it's like I don't know if. I mean, people are, again, I said this earlier, and I was actually going to say this at the very end, but I'll say it right now. At the very end is in the end of the podcast. But like, I think I said this earlier. I'm losing my mind right now. I am tired. You can't be afraid of you can't just like write off a deck because it loses to one. If there's no like in the Sword and Shield format, we had mill and ADP. We keep referencing this every week. We'll never forget about that format. That format had ADP or mill. If you auto lost to either of those decks, right, then that's like a considerable like, okay, maybe I shouldn't play this deck, right? Because everybody's playing just those two decks. But this is such a wider format, and you're like, Lee dodged all the pickables.
I don't know how, but I get your point, which is like, look, you can have an auto loss to a deck, but if that deck only makes up 10% of the field, chill, you're fine.
Yeah, like you're cool, because again, people have slow starts, and if you have a slow start in this meta, you're probably gonna win.
I think what that comes back to is like, look, weekend one, people did the conservative thing, which is not playing Dragapult because they don't know how much Eternatus is going to show up.
I think it was more of like people just want to play new decks.
That could be true, right? Like that. I mean, I mean, a lot of ADPZ, so I don't know how big that how much that holds up. But
Turbo Patch is a lot of fun.
It is,
especially when you hit heads.
Baby Blounds also was played, Luke. But the point is, I think people like kind of took a step back and said, let's see how Eternatus does, and then you see that for whatever reason, it wasn't played a lot, and when it was played, it didn't do well. So I think you can come back and say, okay, well, for POG then, it's not going to be so much of the field that it really should stop you from playing a deck. And I think that is 100% fair.
I think people were thinking like it was going to take up like literally 40% of the field. Like Eternatus. I mean, I think Eternatus is a really cool deck. I think it's a really likable deck. I think a lot of people will love the deck. Like it's going to be like,
it's a lot of fun.
It might not be like Zoroark, but like it's going to be to the point of like people love the deck so much that they're going to be playing it post. Like, you play a retro format.
Yeah.
Let's play Eternatus, because it's fun. It's fun drawing a lot of cards. It's fun putting a lot of Pokemon down. I think that Dragapult is the sleeper pick.
Do you want my sleeper pick?
No.
Okay, cool. We're done.
Go. No.
I think for me, my sleeper pick is going to be Spiritomb. I think that Spiritomb, as Jeff Goldblum says, life finds a way. No. Spiritomb finds a way. I feel like in every format for the last, 6 months to a year now, there has been a Spiritomb deck that somehow emerges as like a good pick. And so, for some reason, I just think there's so many tools at its disposal right now, quite literally, between Hustle Belt and Toughness Cape and Big Charm.
Toughness Cape is so good.
So like all of those things, plus the fact that you still have Yveltal in, format. And so you can like set up situations where like, okay, you Yveltal for 3, you set up a 2-hit knockout on another 3-prizer, and then all of a sudden you're on easy street because you use 2 1-prizers and a 2-prizer to do it. That's where I'm like, okay, cool. I think Spiritomb might be my sleeper pick. I don't think a lot of people will play it, but I think if the right people play it, you know what I mean? Like if the right people decide, about
like Team Gas rolls up with a new Spiritomb link.
Yeah, basically, if Team Gas rolled up with a Spiritomb deck, or I can't remember who, maybe Grant Manley. There's a few people out there who've played.
Grant Manley was playing Obstagoon.
So if like the Hunter Butlers of the world also like roll up with some sort of a rogue Spiritomb build, that for me is where I think it can make a deep run, is if it's in the right hands. I am not the right hands. I will not be running Spiritomb. As much as I like it, I should probably build it for fun, but that is my sleeper pick of like a deck that doesn't really get a lot of talk. Now, my sleeper pick is actually at odds with yours in terms of if more Dragapult gets played, that's bad for Spiritomb typically. And
I think that matchup's like, I don't know. I think that matchup's a little 50-50.
No, sure. I mean, I think the Tomb Count version versus Dragapult in that meta was 50-50. Yes.
Yeah.
Toughness Cape, I think, helps. But, you know.
Oh, Toughness Cape super helps.
Yeah. But all of that is to say, like, you know, you still have a Pokemon that only has 60 HP without Toughness Cape on it, which is basically a Zigzagoon ping attack from a knockout. And I'm like, that's always a bit risky. That's always a little risky.
Hey, it's a little tough.
Yeah.
A little tough. So. I will say, though, if you're not playing a Tool Scrapper in your deck, you should. I think Tool Scrapper is pretty good. There's a lot of decks right now that are pulling up counter gains right now. There's a lot of decks right now that are pulling up different items, whether that's air balloons. Jirachi is still a thing with the skateboard.
That is a very good point. I think Tool Scrapper is very good, especially in things like Vikavolt.
I just think Tool Scrapper is just a relatively like super good card. We have a lot of items, and we're getting Toughness Capes as well that have been starting to be introduced.
All right. Well,
that's my two pieces of advice. Don't be afraid of don't be afraid to play Dragapult and Tool Scrapper.
All right. I think that's going to do it. Do you have any other like last thoughts going into POG? I know this is a bit rambly, but hopefully we organized our thoughts a little bit.
But I will say your Kartana deck did make the tier list.
It did. It did make the bottom of the tier list. All right.
And literally they ordered it too. So guess what was the very last deck?
I mean, look, it's a coin flip deck. So of course it's on the bottom, but that's not my sleeper pick anymore. It's Spiritomb. Okay.
But hey, the Charizard deck that you played is also on that bottom.
But what
section,
is the bottom? Because it doesn't have. Is it like bottom 4? Is it Rogue? Like what is that?
That is just tier 4 like decks that you hear about, but you're like, don't even worry about it, Chief.
I don't think Charizard
VMAX, Unknown Hand, Full Links, Stonejourner, Dustox Cryogonal, Kartana.
I don't think Zard VMAX should be below Scizor, if you want my opinion. I think that
I don't even know what I don't even care what Scizor does.
Zard VMAX has got way more potential than that. I think they're doing my dude dirty on that one. But anyways,
maybe you're just delusional, Sean.
That's probably maybe more accurate
from your butt whooping that you had today.
That's fair. All right, that's gonna do it. We're gonna wrap it up here. Let us know. Also to everybody out there, just a reminder that the POG tournament is this weekend. So everything that we've been talking about is for this weekend. If you haven't registered, I think just do it immediately.
Just do it as soon as this is over. As soon as you listen to this and it's done, just sign up.
Go sign up, and hopefully we'll see you there. Let us know what your thoughts are on the POG tournament. I know there's a lot of decks we didn't talk about, but you can't talk about everything on a podcast. So,
I mean, we could.
I mean, we're not. No, we could do enough. If enough people decide to send us money, we'll do an extended cut later.
Sign up for my OnlyFans, but it's actually just tier lists for.
We're gonna make an Only Dan's account.
Only Dan's.
All right. Thank you, Jake, for joining.
Joining? I've been here
Thank you for joining, Jake. I'm gonna cut that out. That was
literally been since day one.
All right.
I've been here since day one, and this man says thank you for joining.
I don't know what that was. I'm just trying to wrap it up.
Oh my God.
All right. Well, we'll catch you all later.
All right. Peace.